In the shadow of the Grand Harrison mansion, the rhythmic beat of hands clapping and the subtle harmony of voices combined to create an undercurrent of energy that filled the plantation. The sun, now high in the sky, filtered through the leaves of the surrounding trees, casting a patchwork of shadows over the gathered slaves. The group was huddled together, their Sunday best adding splashes of color to the otherwise earth-tone tableau. There were no pews here, no towering steeple or grand pulpit, just the earth beneath their feet, the sky above, and the chorus of their shared voices carrying their prayers to anyone who would listen. Standing at the head of the gathering was Amy, the unofficial spiritual leader of their congregation. Her voice was strong, bolstered by the solidarity she found in her fellow slaves. Her eyes closed, she began to sing, her soulful voice lifted by the collective energy of the group. "Steal away, steal away, steal away," she intoned, the first lines of a hymn that every slave knew by heart. It was more than just a song. It was a message, a shared hope, a beacon pointing towards freedom. John, standing at the fringes of the congregation, listened intently, his mind deciphering the coded language that lay within the lyrics. It was a secret code, a testament to their unity and their shared dream of liberty. Each hymn held a hidden meaning, known only to them. The hymns weren't the only coded messages. The slaves communicated through subtler ways as well. A tap of the foot here, a clapping rhythm there. It was their secret language, an unseen web of communication that kept their hopes and dreams alive. "Freedom's nigh, I can feel it," whispered Tricia, her voice barely audible over the hymns. John looked at her. The intensity in her eyes reflected his own. They all felt it, that undercurrent of hope. The taste of freedom so tantalizingly close, yet so far. And so their service continued, their songs of faith transforming into a silent chorus of resistance. Each hymn, each ritual, each glance exchanged between them was a pledge of their unity, a testament to their unbroken spirit. Their bonds went beyond their shared servitude. They were a family, bound not by blood, but by a shared dream. The dream of freedom. As the sun began its descent, marking the end of their Sunday reprieve, the slaves gathered in the makeshift quarters they called home. The air was thick with stories and hushed voices. The field hands and house servants, their work set aside for the day, gathered to share tales passed down from whispered conversation to whispered conversation. These were no ordinary tales, though. They were tales of escape, of freedom, of a mythical path known only as the Underground Railroad. "Listen here," began Gary, standing in the middle of the gathered slaves. His normally jovial face held a grave seriousness, his usual mirth replaced with the heavy weight of the tale he was about to share. He had heard it from the other drivers. Whispers passed from one to another under the cover of darkness. "Yeah, heard about the North Star?" he asked, his voice carrying through the silence. Many nodded. The North Star was a beacon to those lost at night, a constant in the ever-changing night sky. "Well, the North Star ain't just a star. It's a guide, a path to freedom." "Yeah, follow it, and it'll lead ye to the Underground Railroad," Gary continued. The crowd leaned in, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. John, seated with his arms folded, watched Gary intently. "And what, pray tell, is this Underground Railroad?" he asked, skepticism lacing his words. The idea of an actual railroad running underground was absurd, he thought. Gary gave a knowing smile. "Ain't no real railroad, John. It's a secret network. Pathways and safe houses leading us north, leading us to freedom. It's a code. Folks risking their lives to help us escape, guiding us, hiding us. They call them conductors. And the safe houses. They're the stations." The room filled with murmurs as the slaves digested this new information. A beacon of hope began to glow in their hearts. The tale, no matter how fantastical, offered a glimmer of freedom they had scarcely dared to dream about. But how would we even find it? Amy asked, her brow furrowed with worry. How would we know where to go, who to trust? That's where the songs come in, the ones we've been singing every Sunday, Gary answered, his eyes meeting Amy's. They ain't just songs, they're maps, instructions. They're telling us how to find the railroad. As the news sunk in, the slaves began to murmur among themselves, some with disbelief, some with renewed hope. The Underground Railroad, a path to freedom, lay within their reach, hidden within their songs, in their shared stories, and in the stars above. It was a dangerous path, fraught with risks and uncertainty. But it was a path nonetheless, and for many, the promise of freedom was worth any risk. And so, as the day turned into night, their hearts heavy with the burden of hope, they looked to the sky, to the North Star, for in its unwavering light, they saw not just a star, but a path to freedom, a beacon, guiding them to the Underground Railroad. As days turned into weeks, the whispers of the Underground Railroad seeped into every corner of the Harrison plantation. Under the cover of night, in the quiet moments stolen from the harsh reality of their existence, the slaves allowed themselves to dream, to hope for something more than the hard, unending toil that currently defined their lives. The Underground Railroad was more than just a network of secret routes and safe houses. It was a symbol of freedom, a beacon that shone brightly amidst the darkness of their captivity. One such night, John, Norris, Tricia, Amy, and several others sat around a small fire, the glow of the flames casting dancing shadows on their weary faces. Their day's work was done, and for a few precious hours, they could share stories, laughter, and dreams. "You really believe in this Underground Railroad?" Norris asked, his eyes reflecting the flicker of the flames. "Believe. Boy, it ain't about believing. It's about hope," John replied, his gaze fixed on the fire. "It's about knowing that there's something out there, something beyond these fields and fences, beyond Mr. Harrison and his whip." "Freedom," Tricia murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. The word hung heavily in the air, a dream so tantalizingly close, yet agonizingly out of reach. Amy, sitting quietly until now, finally spoke up. "But is it real? Is there really a way out of this place?" She looked at each face in the circle, her question resonating in their silence. "We won't know until we try," Gary said, the firelight glinting in his eyes, "until we take that step, take that risk. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not, but it's a chance. And right now, that's all we got." That night, as the fire died down and the slaves retreated to their quarters, dreams of freedom filled their minds. They saw themselves following the North Star, traveling along the hidden routes of the Underground Railroad, finding sanctuary in safe houses, and finally, stepping onto free land. For the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine a life without chains, without whips, without constant fear. Yes, the Underground Railroad represented freedom, but it also represented hope, courage, and the undying human spirit. It was the dream that kept them going, the dream that lit their way through the darkest hours. It was a testament to the enduring belief that one day they would break the shackles that bound them and emerge not as slaves, but as free men and women. The Underground Railroad wasn't just a pathway to freedom. It was a journey towards their dreams, towards a future they could call their own.